You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
This episode is of course brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Sinusoid. I know I've went on and on about how great the service is and how great the cables there are, and that's all true. Their instrument cables and their patch cables is what I've mainly focused on. But what I haven't talked about too much is their Sasquatch series of cables, which includes power cables and speaker cables. Both of these things are ginormous. They're called Sasquatch for good reason. These are monsters. Big old cables. Big beefy things. And what's cool is that you can get them in flex. So you can get them tech flexed in a whole wide variety of different colors, so you don't just have a plain old boring power cable hanging out the back. You can get it in whatever color you want for all kinds of applications. It doesn't just have to be for your amplifiers or your pedal board or whatever. You can use their power cables on whatever. So make sure you check out the Sasquatch series from Sinusoid. Link will be in the show notes. This episode is also brought to you by one of my very, very favorite pedal companies and local heroes, to me at least, Mr. Black Pedals. I've been playing Mr. Black Pedals honestly for a very long time at this point, almost since they first started out, I believe. I've been playing, I think I've had a Dark Echo for that long. They've made some of my favorite stuff for years. Jack makes all kinds of crazy designs for other people in the industry as well, but their stuff is top notch, and you may have seen their Supermoon recently got an upgrade. The Supermoon is still there, the regular Supermoon, which is a great pedal. There's also the Supermoon Eclipse, which is stereo and includes a chrome mode. So you got both the Supermoon and the Supermoon Chrome in one box, with expression control and true stereo, and it's just a magnificent thing. So check out MrBlackPedals.com and browse the wares. Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Blake Weiland, and returning to the show, and this time actually in person in the Shred Shed, I have Mr. Andy Martin, formerly from PGS, but now with Reverb, and we're just going to ramble and talk some nonsense probably
That's
today.
Right. Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely.
So let's see. It was kind of funny because we recorded remotely last time.
Yeah.
And then the first time, this has happened with a few guys that are here local. The first time I actually met in person was down at NAMM.
Yeah.
Even though we live, I don't know.
We're like 12 miles away.
Same thing happened with Jack DeVille. First time I met him was down there at NAMM.
Oh, that's funny.
And so it's just the gathering place, I guess.
It is, yeah.
Locals.
Met a lot of people, locals too, yeah, and people that I've never actually seen face to face, but I've been dealing with for 10 years or so. So yeah, that was a very cool thing. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same about NAMM.
Oh yeah,
it's a great opportunity.
This is your first NAMM, if that's correct.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, the only time I'd been kind of pre, me being in the business. I went a couple times, and this kind of dates it. It was probably when I saw Eddie Van Halen there, so he was unveiling some guitar, revision of the Wolfgang or something. So
right.
It was ways back, but so I kind of knew what to expect. But
okay.
But yeah, it was just I mean, just, wow, what a buzz you get going there and just walking around and seeing all these people and finally bumping into Zachary Vex and, Thorpe and, all those guys that, just are huge, a huge part of your business and your life. And, so yeah, just awesome thing to finally chat with those guys.
Mm-hmm. I imagine it was probably a little bit of a shock because, like, I mean, probably whether you realize it or not, that, like, you're a big guy in the industry to a lot of people. Like, it's like you've impacted a lot of people through what you do, myself included. As I was telling you off the air, this whole shred shed probably wouldn't exist if I hadn't been watching your your demos, however many years ago that was. But was it kind of a trip to kind of have, we got like people like, it's Andy, hey.
Yeah. Like you were saying, you had to get the shed together because you're, and at the same time, your wife hates me, and that's like that. That was like the unanimous. That was the thing. I love you. My wife hates you. But yeah, no, that was great. It's like I was telling Wampler on that interview I did at NAMM. And,
Mm-hmm.
I was still in shock at that point too, because all these people were coming up to me and yeah, I was maybe a little bit in my own sort of box, and for years just kind of whittling away at those videos and shooting them and not really, making myself available to a lot of people. So of course it was cool to see those comments come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And just made me want to just continue to do it even more because it's just seeing it come to life and seeing how you've made an impact on someone is a very cool thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, you're doing a great job, and I think everyone will agree with that. So I don't know how much we can talk about this specifically, but I did post something in my Facebook group saying you was coming by and seeing if people had any questions. And like the first one was, how's the transition from PGS to Reverb been? And
right.
what does that look like? I don't know how much you can share about it, but
yeah, I mean, I think that the important thing was just to get make sure that it was consistent sound wise, and so a lot of things were kind of taken into consideration with the gear and the guitars and my sound booth where I could still turn up the amps and still use a couple mics to get some distance and use a ribbon mic, and so that was important. And then keeping the look, with the black background and stuff. But I mean, as you've seen, I have a little sort of set, that I've done some vintage demos with, and so that's another thing that I like to explore a little bit more. And that's another thing that's opened up with Reverb, is that now it's not just limited to new products. It's this cool sleeper of a pedal or a great recording amp that that's just kind of underrated. Something
right.
So yeah, that's kind of how the transition was right off the bat. It was just keep doing what I do, and they definitely have been big supporters of just me being myself, and so yeah, I mean, I'm loving it, and there's a lot more opportunities, I think, with Reverb and having I mean, just they have such a wide audience, and so that just means that your content is going to be a little more diverse too,
right?
Just naturally, because you're trying to just reach more people. So.
It almost seems like it's an opportunity, like you said, to try other things. But like I can imagine back with PGS, I mean, obviously you wanted to present things in a good way, but you kind of had you had a job to do, and that was to make it sound good so people buy it, which obviously worked quite well.
Yeah.
But this is almost like more of it seems like it could be more of an opportunity to just be like, here's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't care if you buy it or not, because I'm not selling it. It's just a cool thing that I like, and it almost seems like you could do, like you said, even more things, more opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think that's the general idea I'm getting to. Is just in this weird day and age where people are just putting out content, and that's a full-time job, and it doesn't have to be a hard sell. I think that's, it's not like I'm sitting there trying to sell sham wows and stuff, it's more, it could be a lesson. It could, here's what's cool. If it gets people to reverb, that's cool. And that's what I'm enjoying right now.
Cool. So you've gone to Chicago a couple times. How many times have you been over there?
Yeah, it's been, I think twice. I'm actually going to be heading down there at the end of the month. And, it's just good to kind of just regroup and, because they obviously, they want me to be part of the family, even though I'm a remote worker, they definitely have included me in their team, which is awesome. And, just great people. And it's also nice that when I go over there, there's an editor and there's people that can kind of make it easier for me, and I'm just the talent.
Nice. Nice. That's not a bad spot to be.
Yeah. And there's just so many great creative minds over there. So it's always just good to regroup and to just get acquainted with more people too. There's 150 plus people over there.
Wow, I don't think I realized they had that many employees.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of it is making sure customers are taken care of. Customer engagement is big with them.
And I think they're doing a good job with that for the most part. From what I haven't had any issues, but I've seen people have issues. Not ever with reverb particularly, but some sellers.
Yeah.
And buyers can be problematic, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think they've overall done a really good job of just whoever's at fault is kind of held accountable.
No, definitely. They don't, that's the thing. They don't leave you in the dust like, there are other places and other avenues of selling. They definitely have your back. And I think that's the goal about building a community of musicians, is that, we're all kind of in this thing together. Rather than just being some kind of big faceless company,
right?
So
it's cool. It's very cool. Well, I'd love to get over there sometime just to visit CME and
they're right across the street from each other, and I got to go over there and see a bunch of great guitars. I'm probably going to be checking out some stuff over there. Maybe get a couple, Gibsons or two or something like that, they always have really great custom ordered stuff. So.
And a lot of vintage stuff.
Yeah, and that too, stuff that I could never afford, but it's always fun to play.
Yeah, well, if you got access to it, it's almost like, why pay the money?
Yeah.
I didn't say that. It's like working at a guitar store. Like,
yeah, right.
I got a Squire, but...
Yeah, well, that's funny because you say, kind of going back to PGS, like, people would always ask me, man, your pedal board must be crazy. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if I even have a complete pedal board, because I feel like all the stuff on the shelves is mine, more or less,
You can use it whenever.
This would sound great with a BB preamp, I'm just not getting the, the mids, so I'll grab one of those, it's maybe now that I'm actually thinking about, like, maybe buying a few more pedals just to have on hand for like as just tools for recording and stuff. I'm actually I got for a while into nailing down a few more of the OCDs that I had a hand in, because they're getting pricey, and I was like, I don't want to have to pay over $200 for something like that, but they are. So I thought I should get a couple of, maybe one or two as a backup, But so
good times.
Yeah,
good times. Yeah, I've heard that before. I'm kind of like you. Like this has been my gear goal of 2018, was to actually set up a pedal board. I've got a really nice one sitting over there that's just got nothing on it, but because I do this. I'm like swapping in and out and like trying. I'm not playing out with a band or anything.
Right.
So, it's like I don't need something permanent, and I don't want anything permanent because I am always chasing new sounds.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm like, I'm going to have a pedal board this year, because everyone's always like laughing at me, because they're like, you just throw them all in a cardboard box and go to your jam session or whatever. I'm like, Yeah, kind of.
It's kind of, yeah, it's out of necessity. I mean, it's like, that's the thing. Like I have a G2 and it's like been disassembled 2 or 3 times and I feel bad that I haven't been using it as much because I just absolutely love it. But the same thing, I have a plank of wood with, a tuner in front of it and a buffer after it. And that's my pedal board because that's what I need. I don't, I need to showcase that one thing and it's just less is more. But at the same time, it's like guitarists always feel like, we have to be prepared for anything, or like, one of those survivalists or something. We have to have the right, in case we have that gig,
right? We're
going to have the board with all the right cables and connections. And, but it's also just like makes you feel, like you could just pick up and go and it saves you the headache of trying to scramble and get something together.
It saves so much time.
Yeah.
Like I had a mini board set up for a little bit, which I just ripped apart the other day. But and the last couple band practices we had a few months ago, it was just like, this is much more convenient.
Yeah.
Like I know it logically, duh. Like of course. But being the nerd, I've always had just a mess.
Yeah.
Let's see if I think we have a few more questions from the group. Let me pull it up here, which is not something I can normally do. This is great podcasting for everyone. Just loves when I just go and ramble and give dead air while I search for things on my phone. It's
I think that's the only time where dead air is acceptable with a podcast.
But if maybe I can hum. And that'll make it okay. Oh, yeah, now we're going to glitch. That's fun. It's almost like I should have been more prepared. Or something.
I have to say the shred shed is very comfortable, and it's bigger than I thought, just seeing pictures from your Instagram and stuff.
It seems really big to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's also just because it's like 15 feet tall in the feet.
That helps. Height helps.
It's only 305 square feet in here.
Yeah.
Which is plenty.
Yeah. Well, I'm working with like a spare bedroom now.
Oh, there you go.
So that's been converted into a studio and, with the black curtain behind me. And
of course.
This would be amazing.
If you want to come over anytime, you can use it.
Yeah, right.
I'm not out here all the time, despite what some people have accused me of.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I got a couple. Here's some questions. Let's see. You probably get this one a lot. Ryan Murphy asks, do you have any advice for someone who wants to start doing demos?
Yeah, it's a weird one because... it's like this wasn't even a profession when I started it.
Right.
So it's not like I think I always just say, try to do something, different. Try a different angle. There's certainly, some formats that everyone has tried to kind of, that this is the standard format. This is what you do, but, I think then you could just kind of get lost in the crowd that way, I'd like to see a lot more people, play in a band situation. I think I've only seen maybe Herman's do it a couple times, and that was awesome. And just jamming in some place or it's a lot more production. But how awesome would that be to see like a pedal board live in action? And
one of the things I thought was cool, and it's not really an official demo guy, but Keeley had his guys do that a couple times.
Oh, right.
Just they have the one pedal and they use it on multiple instruments.
Exactly,
yeah. I can't imagine. I'm sure that took 3 days to
there's a lot of pre-production and then they're kind of shooting a music video around it, but it's accurate. Those bass parts or the bass through that pedal and all that. It's just tough. I think just finding a cool way to present something different. Definitely. I think humor is also a big factor. As you've seen with that pedal show, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's a pedal demo show, but it's informative and it's a different way around it.
It is,
they are demoing things. I shouldn't say it's not, but it's something that there wasn't anything like it, and they've just they're just so popular right now. Everyone wants to be on there, including myself.
Hey guys, did you hear that?
Yeah. Well, I finally talked to Dan and Mick at NAMM, and so there's some opportunity, I think. So
nice.
We'll cross our fingers here.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be really cool to see. I need to talk to those guys too. That's actually maybe I need to get them on the show. Speaking of demo guys, but no, that is a good point because I've thought about trying to do stuff before too, and like one, I'm not that great of a player, so I have to figure out something that's tolerable to listen to. But two, it's like, okay, what can I do? How can I don't want to just be me too, you know. It no one cares, you know. And like there's plenty of guys that are really talented already doing that kind of standardized format.
Right.
What am I going to do, you know? So I've had kicked around a couple different ideas, but I do think, I would say the same thing. For somebody that's starting out, you got to give people a reason to watch because
absolutely,
there's already a million people doing really good demos. So
just think about it in any other field, you know, a sitcom or something. I mean, you got to have something fresh, you know. So
good advice.
Good question.
Yes. Let's see. What's the next one? We got. We have. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Sam. I don't know how to say your last name, Sam. So I apologize. I don't know if it's Pinola. I apologize. But how do you select the songs that you use for pedals? Because I'm sure that's a common question.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned this with the Wampler a little bit, where like I kind of let the pedal speak to me. No, but it. You know, obviously, you kind of just dive back deep into your brain and find the sounds that it reminds you of. I think that's for me. That's what I go to, and you know, if it doesn't sound anything right off the bat, I'll just immediately come up with something of my own. And so that's something I like doing actually more than playing covers. Is just coming up with songs, and I think a lot of people think that I. Maybe watching the older format videos of mine, maybe just hear a lot of the covers that I was putting in there. But, I mean, I've always been putting my own material into it, but they kind of just get glossed over from the covers, you know?
Right.
So, that's the thing. It's like something strange, you know, like a rainbow machine or something. You have to come up with your own thing, you know? So, or just other times it's just so obvious, like, oh, this is a through zero flanger. I've always wanted to play Starship Trooper from Yes, so I do that, you know. So I just have those things that are kind of just waiting to be picked off the shelf, you know. So that's a little bit of my process.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I other than when we're at band practice or something, I don't really play songs. Like, I don't really play covers when I'm out here noodling around by myself. I'm usually like deep diving, trying to find some weird new sound.
As you should.
Yeah. But I'm like, it's kind of weird though, because like my dad plays a lot of songs. He's mostly an acoustic player, but he is always playing songs. And so whenever I go over there to maybe play with him, or I pick up a guitar or something, Mom's like, play me a song. I'm like, I got a weird riff I did with a fuzz pedal the other day.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah. There was in high school, there was the guy that can play songs at a campfire, and there was me who I could play the riff from Black Dog or something.
Right.
Well, that's not that doesn't really work around a campfire. So there's the guy who's strumming those Jack Johnson songs, who's getting all the attention, and me just kicking sand.
Yeah. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess I don't necessarily want to be the Wonderwall guy, but
yeah.
It is kind of weird though. Everyone's like, "You play guitar?" "Yeah, I play guitar." "Oh, okay. Play us a song."
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. Like, I don't, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the frightening thing would be like, play at my wedding.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Well, what kind of what?
First, here's my clean tone.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of 70s rock bands do you like? That would be what I'd have to ask them. But
I think we talked about this last time, but I don't recall exactly what the answer is. Do you have a band here locally anymore?
No. I mean, I've not since I moved up to Portland.
That's right.
And I always say I want to get back into it. I just start to think about how much work had to go into it, getting gigs and all that stuff, and just getting your bass player to get an amp of his own. That's just a generic example, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, but I'd love to play. I mean, I got to going back to Reverb. I got to play at their holiday party, which I don't know if too many people outside of Reverb know about this, but they hire this. They hire a club and they do a total proper just showcase of all the musicians there, because everyone at Reverb is an awesome musician, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I mean, so there's all these people and they break off into bands, and it's just like one band after the other. It was just amazing. Like, everyone was so good. And but luckily I was because it was kind of when I was joining, it was kind of during that time, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to squeeze in, because people were planning this for months, you know? And but luckily I got to sneak in there, and that was the first time that I'd played with a band in a long time. And we just only had one night of rehearsals the night before the party, but luckily we only played a song, you know?
Right.
We played Tears for Fears, Rule the World.
Nice.
So that was cool, because that got me a taste of like being in a band again, and just let me know how much I missed it and how important it is in this, gear world to try those things. And luckily the equipment the backline was excellent. And,
I'm sure. No problems there.
Yeah. And, so I didn't have any problems dialing stuff in. It was just ready to go. So,
do you remember what was on your pedal board?
It's funny enough, but that there was an OCD on there.
Okay.
And so I knew how to dial that sucker in.
Of course.
Which was output full and gain like 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to do it for that one. But and that was going into like I think it was an old Bassman head. Or
okay.
Like a silver face, or maybe it was a black face even. But just can't go wrong with that.
No, that's perfect.
yeah. So just bare bones, but
no, I didn't know they did that. That sounds like a great time.
So, maybe I shouldn't have exposed that. They're gonna have people trying to line up outside.
Yeah,
next
where's
year,
my invite? Come on, guys, I want to be there.
Yeah, but that was really cool. I mean, and going back to them being just such a cool community, it's just like wow. I mean, because that we opened the show, the thing. We got to go first, so. Talk about being welcome,
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's super awesome.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Do you have it, like, this is more on the just sort of work side of things, I guess. Have you noticed, and I say this selfishly because a lot of people know this already, I'm transitioning into doing marketing and stuff in the gear community full time, and I'm working remote. I've never done that before. I've always punched in and then worked for the other guy.
Right.
Do you have any tips or advice for people maybe making a similar switch? Because I know you went to work every day.
Yeah. I went to a warehouse just south of Portland, a few miles, and yeah, that definitely helps having a place away. Because I always hear that it's so hard at home, but it's true. I mean, after a couple months, you have to be really disciplined, and but you also have to know when to step away, because that's the other side of the pendulum, is that you'll be working later than you normally were, and you don't realize it. It's just there. It's right down the hallway. It's my spare bedroom, so I'm gonna go work on this. So that's it. You got to just set boundaries, and don't forget to take lunch. Like simple things like that, like step out and. Don't forget to take that break you would have taken at your other, place of business. So,
yeah. That all sounds...
Yeah, and get dressed.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Because it just puts you through the motions, well, obviously I have to, be on camera, so that hasn't changed.
Right.
But it's tempting to just wear slippers, but then I have to show my feet, so then I can't do that to people. So I gotta put
that's
on
one
shoes,
advice for demo people: wear shoes.
Always wear shoes.
Yes.
I especially WOB demos. I don't want to see those toes hanging over the pedal.
I don't know why that bothers me so much. It's always been my thing. I feel like we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, put shoes on. Please put shoes on. I don't even have I don't have an aversion to feet.
Yeah.
I'm fine with feet, whatever. But I don't want. It just seems weird. I don't know.
Well, I think it's you wouldn't go to a gig and be barefoot. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some people would. You know?
Maybe a jam band or something.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, that's probably why they've come out with those little, like, saucer-looking things.
The barefoot buttons.
Yeah, there you go. So that was a really smart idea, by the way. I see those all over the place, and it just makes it easier, I guess, to press even if you're not barefoot.
Well, some of them, too, like, I mean, they've never, like, sponsored this or anything, but they do make cool stuff. They have one called the Tall Boy, and it's so if, like, you got a pedal in a weird spot, like, it makes it easier to get to it and things like that. But, like, I mean, at first I was like, what's that? And then I started seeing it more and more, and then I heard about that taller one. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I got a couple just laying around, and I understand now. I wasn't a believer at first, but I tried them a few times, and they make a lot of sense.
But wah, I think you need the tread of the shoe too, so you don't slide up. I mean, I think it's just like you're saying. I think it makes more sense to wear a shoe just to have that control. But I don't know.
I think in general rule, it just makes more sense to wear shoes, regardless if you're doing a pedal demo.
Right. I mean, because it's hard to make also a sock look very look clean, even if it's perfect, a brand new white Hanes. I mean, it's still gonna look. It's
get them funky toe socks.
Yeah,
get those on there.
Oh, right. The webbed, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how we went off.
Yeah, I don't know how we did either. But
I don't know how most of these things come up, but they do. It's all part.
Oh,
of the
I guess working from home.
Oh yeah, getting dressed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's been a weird. Not to go off on this tangent, but that's been a weird thing for me too, because my outfit has totally changed. Like I used to work where I'd wear coveralls all day, and so I ran a little bit warm doing that, wearing pants and stuff. So I'd throw on a pair of gym shorts and. That was my work attire until I got to work and put my coveralls on. And so now I'm like, I gotta wear just regular clothes. And I've always like had manual jobs, so even when that wasn't the case, I'd put on like my grubby Carhartts and stuff to go roll around in whatever grease or whatever. And now I'm like, I gotta wear like regular clothes.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Goes with the job, I guess.
It's nice. It's not something I thought of as being a benefit. It's like I can just wear T-shirts.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And jeans and call it a day. But yeah, thanks for that. That was I've been asking that question of a lot of people lately because I'm finding more and more people like, I mean, Brian Wampler in particular, he kind of is in the same boat. He works from his house and has a separate,
that's right, yeah,
thing where he does videos and all that. And so I was picking his brain, and he said a similar thing. Like, it's real easy, especially doing this kind of stuff. Doesn't really feel like it's like this is what I would kind of do for fun.
Oh,
right?
Sure, yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like work, but you do need to stop sometimes.
Yeah. Set some boundaries.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good advice. Thanks.
It is hard in general to stop though, because it's such a thing we're all passionate about. Music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, music. We don't. That's the thing. You don't clock out when you're a musician. You're always thinking. You're always strumming something or thinking of a tune or just listening. I'm like I'm always listening to things, like even if it's in the choice of music in something I'm watching on TV, it's like I'm always like I can't not listen. I don't know. There's people that I'll say, oh, what was that song? I'm like, what song? Yeah. It's just really interesting. Different. You get wrapped up in that and not in the story. You get distracted.
I know exactly what you mean. They're again going back to work, like at the job. They put on the modern country station, which is a big enough problem for me, being an old school country fan.
Okay,
that's a whole nother subject that everyone already knows my feelings on.
Okay,
but I have more than once been like, guys, you realize I've been counting. This is the 7th time we've heard this song today. We've only been here for 5 hours. We haven't even had a full day yet. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
They don't, it's a musician thing. They didn't, it was just, and they said, it's just background noise to us. I'm like, it's grating to me.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
Oh, man. There's some things that my wife and I will go into certain stores, and it's like the worst music we've ever heard, ever. And I'm not going to name these places, but it's just like, we go out there so angry and like without it buying anything, just because it's like, oh, did you hear that one song? Oh yeah, we're in separate places across the the whole store.
Yes,
and we'll meet back up and we're like, yeah, did you hear that one? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my wife and I are the same way. There was something that came on, I don't even know, like, I don't remember what song it was. It wasn't necessarily a bad song. It was just not something we would normally listen to.
Yeah.
And I was like, where have we heard that? I know it's very popular, but we don't listen to the radio, really.
Yeah.
It's just, mostly Apple Music around here and
right.
vinyl. And it's like, where did we hear that? And we're like, the gym. They always play awful music at the gym. That's the only place. But I think that people who are passionate about it, you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
And you do notice things like that, like the same song playing over and over again or whatever. But your wife is she a musician too, or is she just a really big fan?
I think she's just a good fan. I mean, she definitely has a musical side, but I think, and also just being around me for 17 years, it
Yes.
rubs off. So it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. Being always listening to something. But it also it's just funny how you notice, like, there's. For me, it's like you notice the patterns in that kind of music,
yes.
and it's like, oh, how creative! There's the break, and then there's the big coming back into it, and it's like it just kind of makes it's a little sad, just because it's such a cookie cutter thing right now with the format. I mean, not to get down this rabbit hole, but
no, it's good. We can go down.
It's you can almost tell where the song's going to go before it even starts.
Totally.
And there is a lot of repetitious music that I like too, but. It just seems like it's gotten worse.
Well, I don't, it's a Facebook or YouTube thing, so I don't know how factual it is, but it was talking about, I can't remember the exact numbers or the time frame per se, but it was like the last 10 years or so, like 80% of the top hits, the top 10 hits or whatever were basically written and produced by the same two guys.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
like I can't remember their names, but they're big name producers.
I have heard that too. Yeah,
and I don't know how accurate that really is. I didn't fact check the YouTube video,
Yeah.
but I was like, and I was going through all the songs that they were a part of, and it was like, yeah, those are all super famous songs, and they all have this millennial whoop, they call it, and like
the millennial whoop. Oh, okay.
Millennial whoop. It's like I can't remember. It's like this. It's this weird. Lots of songs do it. Lots of pop songs do it. It's like
a lot of oh-ohs and
like it's like a
oh, of course,
like thing, like, and it's if you notice how many songs do that, it's like
yeah.
well, they all do it. Like
Well, that's the chorus. You just go to that, and don't forget the foot stomping and the little bit of hand claps and stuff in the background. No.
And I'm not hating on pop music, because a lot of the music that I enjoy has patterns that it don't, like all the hardcore stuff just has the same idea too. Here comes the breakdown.
Of course.
And, and then here comes...
Well, that's what makes a genre and style,
true.
It's just the patterns, Or even if you go back to just like the beginning of music, I mean, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, oh, that's been since the beginning. So we can't like really, get too bash on that too much. But
that's true.
I do see that, and it's like, I really love the Lumineers and stuff and Blind Pilot when they came out. And then now I'm hearing like every band that sounds like that. And I think that's maybe what you're talking about, is some of that, these kind of like they really want to be like anthems, for people. And so it's just easier to do something like oohs and ahs, Just...
Well, I mean, it certainly is easier to take the recipe and tweak it, versus trying to come up with something new.
Yeah, I guess,
but then again, when we did our album, we were like, we wanted it to sound like it came out of the 90s, and it kind of does. Yeah. And therefore, there's a lot of patterns. It's like, that sounds like it could have been a Weezer song.
Yeah.
Except not as good as Weezer, but, So, I guess it does all kind of come back to, at the end of the day, 99% of everything's in 4/4. So, I mean...
It's all been done.
It's all been done.
Just hang up your guitar and,
No, I won't do it. I got new fuzz pedals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thankfully, we have more pedals to inspire new ideas.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So speaking of back to gear a little bit, have you seen any kind of trends lately that are standing out to you as far as pedals or gear in general?
I guess we could kind of go back what we were just talking about before we started this. Is that I think last time we were talking about how the digitally controlled analog was really only being done by Chase Bliss and and there's a couple other companies that kind of jumped on it, but I've been hoping there would be more. And I just brought in this Kismet, and which is digitally controlled overdrive, and you get presets, and you can hook it up to MIDI. And so if you have something like a switcher, all of a sudden you have 100 presets now. So I really hope that kind of is moving forward, because I don't know, I like, and this is just me, my own opinion, but I've always just liked analog modulation,
phasers.
Yeah, there's just something so just so natural about that, especially a phaser, filtering and stuff. As soon as you try to make that digital, I don't know, you lose something. So I think it's just my opinion that if you could still do that, but have some control with it digitally, that would be a really cool path to explore. And so that's why I think Chase Bliss has been so popular, is because he realizes there's a lot of people that like that. But as far as other trends, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, this gear world is so stuck in vintage land, so they don't want to stray too far away. But I guess we could go into modeling and stuff like that. And,
Well, I've kind of noticed one thing I've seen, and this is probably because I tend to go for the noisier, weird stuff, is there's a handful of companies that seem to be really taking some inspiration from the modular synth world.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
and I know, I had Christian from Adventure Audio on, I don't know, twice, but it was last time he was on, whenever that was, he was talking about deliberately joining those two worlds together.
Yes.
And some of their new products, and then and Dwarfcraft does some of that too.
Right.
And it's just I think that's going to become more of a thing. And taking some, because there's some common features in that world, like using control voltage for things and whatever, that really doesn't happen in pedals, and there's no reason it should.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was only Moog that would mention CV, and guitars were like, what's CV? But I think you're right. I kind of had that thought, there was a guy, at PGS and Tone Report that was really into synths and always talking about modular stuff. I'm like, well, how come no one's doing a modular pedal board? And then, of course, you go back to I think they tried it in the 80s, with was it Boss or maybe Yamaha that had a series of modular pedals.
That sounds really familiar.
He's probably screaming at me going, "It's this," but yeah, and I think that's just a no-brainer. I think people like Maleko and people that are already sort of they're in both of those worlds. I could see that happening, but then again, it's then you're kind of you're worried about a format now. You have to have a specific pedal board, that's going to house these. You can't just put them on any board.
That's true.
So those are some of the things I was thinking of that might be maybe what's keeping those two worlds from colliding. But like you're saying, if there's a standalone pedal and you still have control voltage and stuff, that might be the solution.
Yeah.
Just to because there's always been good synth players using guitar effects, but I don't think it's been the other way around. So I think there's some opportunity there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I see way more pedals in a synth setup than I do any modular stuff in a guitar rig by a long ways. And to be fair, I've not really messed with it either, so I understand the hesitation. It's okay, now I got to buy this.
Yeah, Eurorack setup. Yeah.
and it's from what I gather, it's even more expensive and addicting than guitar pedals, is what I'm told. I'm like, maybe I better stick to one thing is bad enough.
Yeah, right.
But it could be cool. But yeah, you mentioned the modeling stuff, and I just finally got my mitts on a head rush I played with the other day.
Oh, right.
I don't know. Before I give my opinion, did you have any opinions or played with the Helix or anything like that? Not
so much. I had the, you mean the Line 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only introduction I had, that was the HX effects, which was just the Helix effects, not any really of the amps or anything, but it was the pedals. And like, I gotta say, that vibe alone was very very convincing and very lush. And so going back to like saying I only like analog modulation, well, there's one of the things that kind of broke the rules, and it's like, wow, you're doing a virtual photocell and light bulb, and it was really it was top notch, you know. So
nice. That's
exciting. I mean, I would love to see. I mean, if I get convinced, well, why not go down that route, you know?
Yeah, I haven't played the Helix stuff yet, and I jokingly bash on it all the time. But
oh, really?
Yeah, just cause why not?
Yeah, it's an easy target.
It's an easy target. But after playing the Head Rush, just because it was available, I was waiting around at Guitar Center, and I was like, I'll try this thing. It was cool. It worked good, and it was just going into a power amp. It's just a powered speaker, and hearing the difference, their cab simulators, because you could run it all kinds of different ways, but you could just run the amp into this powered speaker, and it sounded horrible.
Oh, okay.
It sounded really weird. And then you would put their different cab sims on, and it would sound like it should.
Right.
I thought it was impressive, and I liked that you could order things however you wanted.
Oh, that's important. Yeah.
And just on a touchscreen and just drag it over, and
nice.
It worked really well. I mean, I was making some cool sounding things in not too long, and if I was flying gigs and stuff, I'd probably have one of those. As much as I love huge boards and all that kind of stuff, I'd probably be using one of those realistically, or something like it.
I definitely like the impulse responses and that sort of stuff. I just had a opportunity to play the aux, so that to me was kind of nice. That's sort of like the hybrid digital analog. That's just sort of in a different form rather than pedals. It's you get to use your amp, but then you have emulated cabinets and speakers and stuff. So I think that would be a really cool. I wouldn't mind just carrying a head, and then plugging direct into the front of house, and because I think some of those cabinets sounded better than the mic and the cab I was using in the room. I mean, just because you have the more space available, you have overhead mics, virtual overhead mics and stuff that you could select, and different speakers. I was limited to a Vintage 30 in the room, but this one I could select a Greenback or a Alnico. So that's I guess going back to what we were talking about in the beginning with things going in the future is like, I have these great old heads and stuff that I don't think I'll ever get rid of, but if I could find a way to use them, dust them off again, that was the thing. Like, I even said that in the video. I'm like excited to play my Marshall again, because it was sitting on a shelf, and just because I'm not gonna be able to like put that 412 in my room and crank it up all the time.
Right.
So that's a cool thing, just to be able to, technology letting you continue to use your, your vintage gear, and so. There you go.
There you go. That's what we think. No, I think the answer, like, everyone's like, oh, modeling or old school stuff. I'm like, just use what works.
Exactly.
Like, if it sounds good to you and it's working for you, then why would you not use it?
Right.
I mean, if it's something, just because it's not the cool thing, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I think as long as you just use it right, I think that's the thing. I mean, people might, just plug into a 2 notes something or other and not really play with the mic positions or something, and all of a sudden it just sounds too close. Mic sounds too grainy or something, and then their opinion on that is that, oh, that unit sounds too direct. It doesn't sound real. Well, get some depth. That's something I'd like to hear a bit more, is some of those models. I haven't played too many of those. I know a lot of guys do, and a lot of demo guys, because they don't have the room to crank up, and it does get the job done. So.
And I mean, I think that's what the guy, Living Room Gear Demos, I think he pretty much exclusively uses the 2 notes.
That's right, yeah.
And his stuff sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, I think, an Imperial, a Tone King, an amp that I actually used for the demo amp for PGS for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like it fooled me, it sounded like it, because it is the amp,
right.
Just that, like, again, I think a lot of people just maybe don't get to explore some of the deeper parameters, and that's the only thing I'm a little bit, I know I can sometimes notice when things are too direct sounding. Yes. It's just because,
you've done it a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just back off that virtual mic a little bit, get a little more warmth, move away from the center of the cone or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my, my taste, because I've been just doing it the old school way for so long. And, pretty old school.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah.
There again, it works.
Yeah.
So if it isn't broke, then...
Yeah, right.
But no, one of the things I haven't experimented with recording yet, but I have occasionally. So, like we were talking about this room out here. I can play at night pretty regularly, but while the neighbors can't hear anything, my wife will sometimes want to go to bed before I do, and our bedroom's right there.
Right.
And she can kind of hear a little bit in there because it's like 4 feet away from the shed or whatever. So I've had to play with headphones even out here sometimes if I want to play. And I've found the Benson Vinny over there into the New Neighbor Iconoclast.
Oh yeah.
Into headphones. That's about the best silent thing I've had for just playing.
Right.
I haven't tried recording with it yet, but it sounds really good.
Yeah, I just did their chorus, the tri-chorus. So I ran across that one. And that's just an analog thing still, right? Is it? Or
no,
is
it's digital.
Is it digital? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason it was analog.
It's a digital thing, and it has software that you can, like, I don't remember exactly how it works because I haven't messed with it too much, but like you can't load a IR in there, I don't think, but you can like look at one and map it out the same or something. I can't remember exactly how it works. I'd have to look into it again.
Yeah.
But you can use IRs with it in some fashion. So if you have a cab that you really like, you can dial it in to sound like that.
Right.
So
that is a very cool thing. I mean, like I went through attenuators for a long time, and I think those kind of fell short in certain ways, different brands, and I think this is a little bit I think it takes care of a lot of those problems, but I'd like to explore that. I mean, I know Wampler did a cool thing on impulse responses. I learned a lot from that one, actually.
He's obsessed with those.
Yeah. And he does a really good job at, like I was saying, mixing those far mics, rear mic on the back of the cab, To me, that's where you get all that realism. It's not so direct in your face. You get some, it's an amp in a room, so, that's cool. I mean, it's whatever works, like you're saying. I mean, if you got a kid sleeping next, the next wall across, so you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned an attenuator, and ironically, from NAMM, and this thing's been out for a while, but I never got to experience it. One of the coolest things I've seen at NAMM was the Fryette Power Station. Have you ever seen one of those?
No, but I've heard a lot about them.
Oh, man. It was amazing. Yeah. I was never got that excited about an attenuator / it's also a power amp.
Okay.
But, like, we plugged in a 100-watt head into it and just cranked it. And then just basically used it like a master volume.
Sure.
But it didn't sound how most attenuators sound. It actually sounded awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it sounded the same to me. We cranked it, too, without it, and then we dialed it back and played around with it, and I was just like, I think I need one of these. I don't know why. I can usually get pretty loud, but, like, it blew me away.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how much I liked it. And I think they've been screaming about it for a long time, and people kind of aren't paying attention because attenuators aren't that cool.
Yeah, well, then they get a bad rap just from the early days of them, quote unquote, blowing up transformers. And, but so that's the one that actually has its own output transformer.
It has its own output. I think it's like a 50-watt solid state, or maybe it is valve. I can't remember now. I shouldn't speak out of turn, but I believe it's got its own 50-watt amp in it that you can basically use as a master on anything.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. I think because I had the Ultimate attenuator, which was similar. It's like you put your amp into it, and then you use its own output transformer, and you know, you could go all the way down to bedroom because, excuse me, because you could take it down to like 0.5 watts or something like that, you know, which is cool. There's just so many other options. I mean, I don't know. I don't know which one is. I'd have to have them all in the same room to be like, okay, this is the one, you know. So
there's a demo for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about getting creative with reverb.
Yeah.
There's a demo for you.
Yeah, one of my favorite guitarists, Graham Coxon, has been using that power break on his Marshalls since the 90s, and that one has actually kind of a bad reputation of blowing up your amp. But it's like, well, if he could make it last, I mean, I just saw him in 2015, still using that attenuator, still using that same Marshall.
So what do you think? What is it? I don't really know much about the blowing up amps thing. What's the deal?
I think the main thing is, well, you're just driving your amp. You know, you're turning up your amp to, you know, I guess it doesn't.
Max volume.
Depends on where you like it set, but you know, if you're cranking it to 10, your amp is working like it's on 10. It doesn't matter what the attenuator is doing.
Right.
It's so you're blowing through the life of your tubes, you know.
Okay.
But I think maybe the transformer thing goes from just maybe impedance mismatch and stuff like that. You know, stuff that's beyond me, but
right.
And also I think, you know, the impedance. So I think that's what was great about the aux is that it's variable. It reacts like a speaker, you know, because your amp wants to see
variable.
Yeah. So that could have been why the earlier ones, they were just a fixed like resistor or something, like the old what's the one before, like the Tom Schultz, like the Power Soak. I think it was just resistors, you know, and that's why they get hot, you know, because they're just like trying to dissipate, you know, all that heat. I'm not an expert, but it's interesting technology. I mean, but like what was so cool about the aux is that you get both of those things. You get attenuator and, you know, IRs and stuff. And that was the thing that I didn't get to explore, is that they have their own cabinets, but then you still could load an IR into that.
Oh, okay.
And just go down that whole thing, you know. So, I really like to get my hands on one of those again.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I'm assuming their own cabs are just supposed to be like fairly neutral type of thing, or
they get specific, you know. There's like the one I kind of matched with my 212 was like I don't remember their specific name, but I think it was a 65 watt 65 watt speaker. So then I think maybe that's more like a Vintage 30, which is actually 60 watts.
Right. And
then they got, you know, a Vox cab with some silver speaker, you know.
Okay.
So
I got
there's a lot. And greenbacks definitely were in there in the 412. So it definitely gets specific, but I know in stuff like Bias Amp, you know, they have all those Celestion IRs that you could load in.
That's right. They got their own.
Yeah. So there's so many to play with. I mean, but I guess you know, the thing I loved about that in general was I was just using the guitar into the amp,
right?
You know, and I was just in heaven, you know, because that's where I've always just loved it. Is just like maybe get a boost or something, but if I have a choice between diode clipping and a tube doing its thing, I'm going to choose the tube, you know. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that, and maybe they get hung up, or they get they reach a brick wall and say, well, how come I can't get this sound or something like that? It's because you're trying to do it with a solid state distortion, you know. I don't think really people realize that, you know, they don't ever say solid state. Think about that as marketing side. If someone said, this new solid state distortion pedal, I mean, it doesn't really have the same ring. Right. But it is. It's a solid state distortion.
That's what they all are.
Yeah, right? But it's clever that no one, they've just strayed away from that, obviously. There's a negative association with that. But I just try to, you know, it's just funny. I think about that every once in a while. And
I've thought about that same thing. It's like some people are like, I don't like solid state amps. And it's like, but wait. Hold on.
And then they're playing their twin on one, and then there's distortion and overdrive is coming from op amps and diodes.
Yeah. Which I like running that way too, but I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Not that I know what I'm doing, but like I understand what the tools I'm using.
Yeah, I understand what I mean. They have, obviously, fuzz. I mean, that's I can't do without fuzz, and obviously that's not tube. So it definitely has its place and has its strong suits. And, I think it's always just about a combination of this and that. A little bit of breakup, a little bit of solid state distortion. And that's like, I think that's the sweet spot for me. But everyone's got their own taste.
I like it all.
Yeah, yeah.
As you can see.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, right down to the drum samples. I built an E kit where I'm looking at his Roland V drums right now.
Oh yeah, that's my buddies.
Actually. Oh okay, yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, those are actually those are Leon's from Pelican Noise Works. Those are his.
Oh, cool. So. Yeah, I played on a couple of tracks. I played I made this E kit, just out of like orphan shells that I cut in half and put mesh heads on, and because those triggers are so basic, it's all really about the module, the head, that is translating those piezos into and it's basically triggering velocity.
That's cool. I never really looked into it.
Yeah, so. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I wanted a kit, and then so I ended up going down another rabbit hole and finding out that that's all this is. And then even better is you bypass the sounds in the module and go straight into your computer and trigger BFD or drum kit from hell. And those were the big ones when I was doing it. And,
those are awesome.
Yeah, so
I love those.
And then I just got into just using those loops that they created and just got rid of the kit. It's like, why am I going to spend all this time? Because I'm a little bit of a closet drummer. I just bought an old Ludwig and Bonham size.
We got Ludwig. A confession here.
But I'm not going to waste. If I have certain hours in a day, I'm not going to spend an hour of it trying to just get that 4/4 beat perfectly in time. I'm just going to do a MIDI loop and I'm going to edit it and make it do what I want.
For what you're doing, it doesn't make any sense to. Unless you just want to.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was good. It was good to kind of like learn and get. I think it is important because it helps you realize exactly what the bass drum is doing and how to write better riffs, and stuff, because you're more in tune with what the kit is doing. You try to match that bass line to the bass drum or to really lock in. I think if you play it, you're definitely more. You're in tune to what what each part is doing. So
right.
But so I just kind of took that experience, but I still do loops. At this point.
Probably. I would think it would help you make your loops though. It would make them sound legit.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, a couple of I could find a MIDI track online somewhere, but they always miss the little things that make it sound real, the hi-hats are always the same velocity that they never open up halfway to build up the tension, certain fills just like, whoa. I actually like to figure out who made these MIDI samples, just because it's like...
Probably an engineer.
I owe them a lot, but I remember way back in I don't know when this was, 2002 or something like that, or maybe even earlier, a bunch of guys were sitting around and we found this site. It was like an Angel Fire website.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, when you were trying to find MP3s, you'd often get stuck getting a MIDI file of it. And it was just like, oh, that's not what you want. But we were laughing about how corny it sounded, because it was like all the the whole AC/DC catalog in MIDI form.
Right.
And the funniest thing is when they always make the vocal line, they always make it like a flute or a trumpet, and it's like always the worst. And it's like, it could be fine, the bass and drums could come in, but then as soon as the vocal line comes in, it's just so hilarious. But yeah, it's like, why were they making all those? What was the necessity? Did it just come out of some Casio? Or
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me either. Like, who? Yeah. Surely it was just done by a machine.
Yeah.
Because who has the time?
Well, somebody had to program them. Obviously, you listen to some of those Rush MIDI, everything is like spot on. Those guys really know their songs. But I'm getting on a tangent. But yeah, I basically owe those guys a lot because and sometimes, you know, it'll start off as a MIDI song and then I'll tweak it, you know, of course, to make it more realistic. But it definitely saves me time, you know, not having to like just program the straight 4/4 beat. It's already there, you know, even though I'm going to tweak some of it. It's, you know, it's definitely a time saver.
For sure. Well, we are right at that hour mark. I feel like I could probably do this all day.
Yeah, same here, man.
I mean, didn't we said we should start recording before we...
Yeah, well, we probably already got an hour before we started this.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I somebody did ask a good question, and since I've already asked you this last time, but since you've been to Chicago a few times, has your taste in pizza changed at all, or are we still sticking with the tried and true?
Well, I think I probably said like I just like a plain cheese or something. I mean, definitely less is more. I tried it's funny because a lot of the guys in Chicago were like, we don't even like big old fatty, thick, cheesy pizzas. We don't, you know, nobody really likes that. It's kind of like a novelty, you know, like.
Yeah, like I'd want to try it.
Yeah, I definitely tried it. I tried the brand, you know, the place to go, and it was just massive and thick and way too much cheese. But yeah, I think just keep it simple. A couple of veggies on there. I don't really do the meats on pizza anymore. It just doesn't do it for me. But yeah, just simple. Something, you know. Keep it. Yeah, less is more.
No, he's sticking to his guns. That's cool. And well, I've changed a little bit not really in what I like, but I went to New York for the first time and I honestly was a little bit skeptical. I was like, whatever, we got great pizza in Portland, you know? Like, yeah. I'm like, this is going to be just good. But I had a couple that was like, nope, this has changed my whole outlook on pizza.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. I think it's something in the water, man. I don't know what it is. Because I look at it, and it's like, looks like pizza. But eat it, it's like, nope, something's going on here.
Right.
Put some drugs in here or something. I don't know. So, I'm looking forward to going back.
Yeah, that's a good reason to go back.
Yes. I will be going back, by the way. Anybody who's listening, Fear the Riff in August. I'll be out there again, so maybe we can sneak Andy in the bag with us.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. This has been great. We should probably do this once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, this was like so easy to do. I mean, I love to do it more.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it happen. But until next time, this is Blake, and for Andy, good luck and good tones. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.